think, Danielle, thanks. I think that in my view, culture is the most critical important feature to lead into integrity, transparency and accountability. I mean, the reality is that if more politicians were prepared to accept they'd made mistakes or had understandably been engaged in an error of judgment and wear the responsibility for it and explain how they perhaps got into that situation and outlined ways that they have improved their processes so it doesn't happen again, we'd all be more prepared to trust and leave them at the helm, as it were.
Yes.
Whereas if there's an inability or unwillingness to accept their errors, we just say, well, they're not telling us the truth. Why should we trust them? And it just undermines public confidence entirely. I mean, in reality, a mistake is only an opportunity to improve. And if that culture is promoted, you have a much healthier, much more productive workplace, whether it be in Parliament or in your organisation or in mine. It's a necessary to have the workplace culture being healthy, and everything else I've found falls into place. Most of the problems you have will fall away if your workplace culture is healthy. Conversely, if your workplace culture is toxic, you will have problem upon problem magnified over time.
Danielle, could I just make a comment around, because I remember at the beginning of the session, transparency came up really, really big there, and it's come up a few times since. And one of the things I find interesting about transparency is you can be transparent around a decision that's not right. It doesn't make something right. And so I think it is a really important component in building trust, and probably will bring you to a closer to a good decision. But transparency is just sort of one factor. What I think we need transparency in is the way that decisions are made, and the sort of the information that's informing a decision, or the the stages that are behind it. So, for example, with COVID in New Zealand, when they announced the stages of lockdown, they actually disclosed the thinking behind it. These are the factors that will lead us to go from a stage 1 to a 2 to a 3. And you could see that kind of transparency around the decision making and frameworks actually public health officials say that leads to higher levels of compliance. So I think transparency, it's definitely a component, but it's the transparency around the decisions which comes back to, how are we making these decisions? Are we making good decisions? So I think it just can't be the only solution. It goes, like people are saying, and particularly Alan, hand in hand with other things. It's a component of culture.
Yeah, and certainly that's, as you said, Claire, something that's featured in some of the questions that I've seen come through in the chat as well, accountability for decisions. So is there anything else you'd like to add, Kathleen, on that, just in terms of the work that you do and sort of guidance, I suppose, for local government in terms of what they can do in and around that sort of, transparency and accountability for decisions that you would suggest and sort of guide to help keep that level of trust up?
So I guess the approach that we've taken to building and strengthening sort of an ethical culture, as opposed to just the 77 workplace cultures, is to ensure that we're applying and communicating consistent standards so that the decision making becomes almost predictable, because people understand that this is the standard that's going to apply and that it's consistent and that they see the rationale for that decision making. That we provide guidance and tools to help build capacity, and that's about also demonstrating our understanding and fairness, and offering things like amnesty periods for new councillors to help get them on board and upskill and build that very necessary capacity, to target interventions around councils who we can see are really struggling, who with a good educative intervention might be able to be brought on board to really understand the standards more effectively and to apply them. To focus on building trust in us from the local government sector, because if there's going to be problems in the local government sector, it is the staff and the councillors in the local government area who are going to be best placed to report that. And when we first started, we were only receiving 11% of our complaints from local government. So we really wanted to increase that significantly. So people had greater confidence in doing that. So it's over 50% now. And to encourage councillors to self-refer their own conduct where a standard wasn't met, so that it can be seen as an educative opportunity and to take a learning on board and move forward from that.